The park bench was cold, wet from the morning rain, and covered in fallen leaves that no one had bothered to sweep away. Sarah Mitchell brushed off a spot with her worn jacket sleeve, her 3-year-old daughter Emma clinging to her leg, when she noticed him, a man in an expensive suit sitting at the far end, staring at nothing with eyes that held the kind of emptiness money couldn't fill. "You can sit here if you want," Sarah said softly, gesturing to the space she'd just cleared. The man looked up, startled, as if he'd forgotten other people existed. For a moment, their eyes met, hers warm despite the exhaustion written across her face, his hollow despite the Rolex catching the afternoon light. He nodded, a ghost of acknowledgement, and Sarah settled down with Emma in her lap, pulling out a slightly crushed peanut butter sandwich from her bag. Marcus Chen hadn't sat on a public park bench in 15 years. The CEO of Chen Technologies, a name that made investors salivate and competitors tremble, had cars waiting, penthouses beckoning, restaurants holding tables indefinitely. Yet here he was in Riverside Park on a Tuesday afternoon, because everywhere else felt suffocating. The board meeting that morning had been the final straw, another standing ovation for another, quarter of record profits, another reminder that he'd built an empire on the ruins of his own humanity. "Would you like half?" Sarah's voice broke through his thoughts. She was holding out part of her sandwich, the gesture so genuine it physically hurt to witness. "No, thank you," Marcus managed, his throat tight. "That's yours." "I packed extra," she lied, and they both knew it, but she smiled anyway. "Emma and I always share. Don't we, sweetheart?" The little girl nodded enthusiastically, peanut butter smeared across her cheek, and something cracked in Marcus's chest. When was the last time someone had offered him something without wanting something bigger in return? Sarah didn't know she was sitting next to a man worth $4 billion. She didn't recognize his face from magazine covers or news broadcasts. She saw a person alone on a bench, and her instinct was kindness. It was revolutionary in its simplicity. "I'm Sarah," she said, not pushing, just existing beside him with an ease he'd forgotten people possessed. "This is Emma. We come here every Tuesday after her doctor's appointments." "Marcus," he replied, the name feeling strange without his title attached. "Not Marcus Chen, CEO. Not Mr. Chen, just Marcus." "Nice to meet you, Marcus." Sarah settled back, watching Emma toddle toward the nearby ducks with careful supervision. It's a good day for the park. The rain cleared everything up, made it fresh. He wanted to tell her that nothing felt fresh anymore, that he couldn't remember the last time. He'd noticed weather beyond, how it affected his commute. Instead, he said, "Your daughter is beautiful." Sarah's whole face transformed, love radiating from every feature. "She's my world, my miracle, really. The doctors said she might not walk after the accident, but look at her now." Pride and pain mingled in her voice, and Marcus found himself leaning forward, genuinely listening for the first time in months. "An accident?" "Car crash 8 months ago." Sarah's hands twisted in her lap. "Her father didn't make it. We were lucky, Emma and I. Broken bones heal. Broken hearts take longer, but we're managing." She said it matter-of-factly, not seeking pity, just stating truth. Marcus felt shame burn through him. This woman had lost everything and was offering him her sandwich. He'd lost nothing and felt like his world was ending. "I'm sorry," he whispered, and meant it more than any condolence he'd offered in boardrooms. "Thank you." Sarah's smile was sad but real. Some days are harder than others. Today's actually a good day. Emma's physical therapy is ahead of schedule, and I got a second interview for a job. Night shift at the hospital, but it pays better than the diner. "You work at a diner?" 3 jobs, actually. Diner for breakfast and lunch, cleaning offices in the evening, and hopefully the hospital soon. She said it without self-pity, just exhausted matter-of-factness. Emma's medical bills don't pay themselves, and the insurance only covers so much. Marcus thought about his last bonus, $12 million. He'd barely glanced at before his accountant invested it. This woman was working herself to the bone, caring for a traumatized child, and still had enough grace to share her lunch with a stranger. "Emma," Sarah called gently. "Not too close to the water, baby." The little girl turned, grinning, And that's when Marcus saw it, the leg brace beneath her tiny pink pants, the careful way she compensated her balance. She was healing, but the road was long. "She's brave," Marcus said. "She's braver than me." Sarah's eyes shimmered. Kids are resilient in ways adults forget how to be. She doesn't remember the crash, thank God, but she knows Daddy's gone. She asks about him sometimes, and I tell her he's in the stars watching over her. I don't know if that's the right thing to say, but it's the best I've got. They sat in silence for a moment, watching Emma chase pigeons with uneven but determined steps. Marcus felt something unfamiliar stirring in his chest. Not pity, but recognition. This woman was fighting battles that made his corporate wars look like playground squabbles, and she was doing it with more dignity than he'd managed in a decade. "Can I ask you something?" Marcus said quietly. "Sure. Why did you invite me to sit?" "You don't know me." Sarah considered this, tilting her head. "You looked like you needed somewhere to be. And kindness doesn't cost anything. My mama always said that sometimes the richest thing you can give someone is acknowledgement. Seeing them when they feel invisible." She laughed softly. "That probably sounds silly." "No," Marcus said, his voice rough. "It doesn't sound silly at all." Emma returned, climbing into Sarah's lap with the casual ownership of beloved children everywhere. "Mama, the ducks are swimming." "I saw, baby. They're beautiful, aren't they? Can we bring bread next time?" "We'll try," Sarah promised, kissing her daughter's hair, and Marcus saw the calculation behind her eyes. Whether they could afford a loaf of bread for ducks when they were stretching every dollar, he couldn't stand it anymore. "Sarah, I need to tell you something." Marcus turned to face her fully. "I'm not just Marcus. I'm Marcus Chen. I own Chen Technologies." Sarah blinked, recognition slowly dawning. "The tech company? The one that makes everything?" "Yes." "Oh," she looked confused. "Okay, is that why you're in the park? Meeting someone for business?" He almost laughed at the assumption that his presence needed professional justification. "No, I'm here because I was contemplating whether my life has any meaning beyond profit, margins and shareholder value. I was here because I couldn't face another hour in my office, feeling absolutely nothing." Sarah studied him with those kind, tired eyes. "That sounds lonely." "It is." The admission cost him, but it also freed something. "I have everything and I feel empty. You have every reason to be bitter, and you're offering strangers your lunch. I don't understand it." "Maybe that's the difference," Sarah said gently. "I know what matters. I learned it the hard way, but I learned it. Things don't matter. People do. Emma matters. The way she laughs matters. Making sure she has a good life matters. The rest is just noise." Marcus looked at this woman, really looked at her. The frayed edges of her coat, the exhaustion in her posture, the fierce love in her every gesture toward her daughter. She had cracked the code he'd been missing his entire adult life. "I want to help you," he said suddenly. "Please. Your medical bills, your jobs, let me help." Sarah stiffened, pride warring with desperation. "I don't need charity." "It's not charity, it's—" Marcus struggled for words. "You gave me something today. You saw me. You offered kindness when you had no reason to. Let me give something back. Please. Not because you need it, but because I need to remember how to be human." Tears spilled down Sarah's cheeks. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes. Let me cover Emma's medical expenses. Let me set up a fund for her future. Let me help you stop working 3 jobs. Marcus was leaning forward now, urgent. "You've already given me more than you know. You've reminded me why I started my company. It was supposed to make lives better. And somewhere along the way, I forgot that meant actual people with actual lives." Emma, sensing her mother's emotion, hugged her tightly. "Don't cry, Mama. They're happy tears, baby." Sarah wiped her eyes, looking at Marcus with wonder. "Are you serious?" "Completely. And more than that, I want to establish a foundation, in your husband's name, in Emma's name, for families struggling after accidents, medical crises. You shouldn't have to work yourself to death to care for your child. No one should." The dam broke. Sarah sobbed, clutching Emma, years of stress and fear and exhaustion pouring out. Marcus sat beside her, this stranger who'd become something more, and for the first time in years, He felt purpose. "Why?" Sarah managed between tears. "Why would you do this for us?" Marcus smiled, and it reached his eyes for the first time in memory. "Because you can sit here if you want. Because kindness matters. Because you taught me in 20 minutes what I'd forgotten in 20 years, that being human is the only thing that actually counts." 3 months later, Marcus stood in the newly opened Chen Family Foundation building, watching Sarah cut the ribbon. Emma held one end, her leg brace gone, her smile incandescent. The foundation would help thousands of families facing medical hardships, offering not just money but support, resources, hope. Sarah had quit 2 of her jobs. She'd moved into a better apartment. Emma was thriving in physical therapy, her future bright and unencumbered by debt. And Marcus, he'd restructured his entire company around purpose-driven technology, using his billions to solve real problems for real people. They'd remained friends, Marcus and Sarah. She kept him grounded, reminded him what mattered. He supported her dreams, helped her build a life of dignity and joy. "You changed my life," Marcus said as they stood together after the ceremony. "You changed ours," Sarah replied, squeezing his hand. "No, you saved mine." Marcus looked around at the families filling the foundation's halls, finding help and hope. One act of kindness on a park bench and everything shifted. "You taught me that wealth means nothing if it doesn't serve others. That success without humanity is just expensive emptiness." Emma tugged at Marcus's sleeve. "Uncle Marcus, can we go feed the ducks now?" He laughed, genuine and free. "Absolutely. And this time, we'll bring all the bread they can eat." As they walked together into the autumn sunshine, Marcus realized that the best investment he'd ever made wasn't a company or property or stock. It was sitting on that wet park bench, accepting an invitation from a struggling, single mother who saw a lonely man and offered the simple, transformative gift of human kindness. Sometimes salvation comes not from having everything, but from someone who has nothing offering to share.